This is the Rebel Scum Podcast. Available in video on YouTube and audio wherever you listen to your podcasts. Every week, Brock and James talk the latest rumors, news, and theories from a galaxy far, far away. Support us on Patreon for exclusive offers and join the Star Wars discussion. Patreon.com/Rebel Scum Podcast. Here are your hosts, Brock and James.
You're always scum. Rebel Scum.
Boom! Rebel Scum Podcast. I think you are, but it might also be my end. Hi, that's Brock. I'm James.
Hi, James. I'm Brock. Welcome to the
Hi,
Rebel
I'm
Podcast.
checking.
I got the.
Checking. Yeah, you're frozen. I'm not frozen.
Okay. So it's all good. It's all good.
Heidi's here. Hello, Heidi.
What up? Hi.
Episode 262 coming at you live on YouTube.
Live.
Otherwise,
Hi,
you're
fam.
listening to us on SoundCloud in another day.
Yeah.
Argyle Smith also says hi.
Yeah.
Brock, I did. So we did our Halloween. Did you go trick or treating, Brock? Because you live in
No, I was
live in
working.
the suburbs. Did you go trick or treating? Working is an excuse.
No.
You're home in time. The Jays aren't on. You're home in time.
I wasn't home till 8 that night. So, kids,
Wow.
stop trick or treating.
We recorded early in the week, the day before Halloween, which was a day after, or 2 days after, the 10-year anniversary of the Disney acquisition of Lucasfilm. And I thought it would be fun to talk a little bit about that today, Brock. I don't know if you think that would be fun at all, but
Yeah,
I did,
sure.
because Andor kind of sucks. So I wanted
Oh,
to
yeah,
discuss
that's
Andor.
garbage. It's absolute.
Yeah,
garbage.
absolute garbage. But actually, there is. I love Andor, but I know that it's got some negative feedback and whatnot from people. So I do want to talk to you a little bit about Andor. Well, let's talk about the Lucasfilm acquisition, or the Disney acquisition of Lucasfilm 10 years ago. You were one of the first people I texted when that went down. It was you and my dad. I don't know which one I texted first. But do you remember like your initial reaction to that news?
No, not really. I don't think I've ever been negative about it, because it's like, I think it like the report was like Disney owns Star Wars, like the I don't know, I can't remember being like, what about this? It's sort of like Disney money. So it's like
Mhm.
as a fan audience, like you kind of have to keep them happy, because it's the granddaddy of franchises. Think about it. I don't know what you would call the first like film franchise in this ilk, but I feel like it's the first. So the idea that, what am I saying? It's absolutely the first, because it proves that like a franchise can be the original media, but then also can make almost the same amount of money on merchandise, right? Like that is why I'm buying Star Wars. We can sugarcoat all you want, but you're buying Star Wars because it is a money maker. It makes money. It has its system. It will do it. So it's like, I don't think I ever was negative. I honestly can't remember though.
I remember I was excited, but it was funny because I don't remember your reaction. I remember my dad was hesitant on it.
Mhm.
But my feeling was, and it's funny because I've completely 180'd on this since. But my feeling was, well, look what they did with Marvel. Look what Disney was able to do with Marvel. That was my feeling. And I think that was Disney's feeling when they first bought Lucasfilm as well. Was, look, we could do to Star Wars what we did with Marvel. But I think both Disney and myself learned very quickly that they are very different entities and they should not be handled or treated the same at all. And I think, but that was my first reaction. Was I was excited because they did such a good job. Because back then too, it was 2012, so there was only like Iron Man, which I thought was brilliant. Iron Man 2, which was less brilliant. I think that was around the time. I'm one of the 17 people that like the Incredible Hulk. And then Thor and Captain America I thought were okay, and then Avengers I think was around that time. So it was a small sample size, but it felt like they knew what they were doing, and at that time I believe we knew that there was this long plan for the MCU coming. But now, Brock, it's been 10 years. We've gotten 5 movies, and we've got in how many shows have we got in? 2 seasons of Mando, Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, Andor. And then obviously the Clone Wars back and Bad Batch. What else? And Tales of the Jedi.
Visions. Yeah, like.
And Visions. Yeah. So, okay. So let's just do this now, Brock. We got all this Star Wars, and we can all say, it's great because with George Lucas, we probably wouldn't have got any of it. But how would you don't have to give a letter or anything, but how would you grade the Disney acquisition of Star Wars? Do you think that it's like, are we better off today? Or are they doing quantity over quality? How do you feel about it right now?
Oh, I think it's Star Wars.
Why did I ask the question?
The answer is obvious with me if you listen to us on a basis, but it's like under George Lucas, in the space of his career, and like that was it. I mean, you can. I guess Clone Wars, but like Clone Wars was almost like a project, and like, what if George wasn't directly involved with this? Like, he obviously had a lot of feedback on stuff, but like, what if we let someone else fly with it? So it's like, it was first like attempt. What? Oh well, that's not true. I guess the first attempt where George Lucas isn't directly in charge, but he is. You know what I mean? Like, it's. I feel like Star Wars' journey has been, I have an idea, but I can't always be guided to deliver it. So it's going, it obviously working. I don't know. I think we can with the Disney Plus. Just like, honestly think this is what we've been waiting for.
Yeah, I think Lucas was trying to make that the 13th. No, that was the video game, the Underworld TV show.
Yeah,
and he said that we weren't quite there yet, if you remember. But now definitely with Disney Plus, we are there. Star Wars, I think, really, it could utilize Disney like the streaming stuff a lot more. It's made more for streaming than a lot of other brands. I think even more than maybe not Marvel, because Marvel's comic books and that's streaming and books anyway, but. I think it's made for this new medium of entertainment. For me, I think it's been mostly positive. They've had a lot of stumbles, some really big stumbles. A lot of the stumbling blocks have been from announcing things that never happened. And I think a lot of people like to blame KK, who Brock, we're gonna check the board, who's just fired. KK was just fired. Kathleen Kennedy just lost her gig but I think a lot of people put a lot of blame on Kathleen Kennedy, but the Solo thing, I think word is, there's been a lot of rumblings that she actually wanted Solo to come out in December, but it was Disney that said, nope, it's coming out in May. I think that was a mistake. I think there's been a lot of blunders like that along the way. And I do think with the sequel trilogy, because the one thing with the sequel trilogy that's funny is most people have one that they can't stand, and it's either Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker. And those two things are really bred from, like, and the reason why I think people feel that way is because there was no plan. There was no end game when they came up with this trilogy. They were just like, we're just going to make 3 and we're going to let the filmmakers do what they wanted. And when that happens, you start making things as you go along, and whether you like what they make up in those stories or not, you can kind of start to feel it. And I think that was one thing that they might have dropped the ball on a little. And I think that's why we're not getting any more Star Wars films theatrically for a while, because they've got to figure out how they're going to approach the films. And I think approaching the films. Just keep making them trilogies, Brock. That's what I think. Just 10, 11, 12 next. Whether you have characters or not in it, just keep Star Wars continuing in that. But I think they need to plan the movies out a little bit better than they have in the past.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, if instead of ask Favreau to do a series, they said movie. What was the reason? Was it Favreau saying, "Look, I'll do your project, but here's the idea I have, and I don't have the volume," or like, did they just approach Favreau and we want to work with you? You did a series. We think you'd be better for a series. Like, what if they had, if that is the case? I don't know. Like, if they chosen Favreau over JJ first, like that's what I'm always curious about. It's like J.J. Abrams is a good director. Rian Johnson's a good director. Colin Trevorrow continues to make Jurassic World movies. Like, these are all good directors. So it's just like sometimes it just doesn't hit. It's weird. You watch a Marvel movie and it's like, this is a movie like a terrible movie. It just doesn't hit with people. I don't know.
No, I think it is an intriguing question, the Favreau over Abrams or anyone else, because it was, but I don't know what J.J. Abrams came in and he changed the trajectory of the sequel trilogy, because I believe before he came in, they were using a lot of George Lucas's concepts, or at least scripts, like a lot of like the Michael Arndt stuff, which I believe was being drafted for George Lucas before the acquisition, which was a lot like when they bought Pixar. Pixar had a bunch of scripts and they decided to go through on those. There was something going on where they had those, but for some reason, Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, or somebody really, really, really wanted J.J. Abrams in. J.J. Abrams didn't want to do it because he didn't want to do those Lucas things. And when they finally cracked, they said, make your own movie. So who knows how much, I mean, I'm saying this, and as someone who loves the prequels and the original trilogy, but most people hated the prequels at the time. I don't know if you remember that, Brock, but the prequels were very much hated. So we can all sit here and pretend like if they stuck with the George Lucas stuff, that everybody would be very happy, but I don't think that would have been the case. So I don't know what the right answer is on that. I just think that if at some point they would have known where it was ending, I think a lot of people would have been more. I think the people that didn't like The Last Jedi would be a little bit more forgiving, because you would feel like you knew where it was going. And then I feel like the people that don't like Rise of Skywalker would be more forgiving because that was always the plan. Does that make sense?
I suppose I just think it's hard. I feel like a lot of our thoughts tend to be jaded. Like Heidi said, the fans were so nice to take Lloyd comment. There's always someone that loves something, but it's just like Star Wars has this amazing fans that would just everything. It's like here's the net. More because it's like we're now in this situation where like like prequels as well. Kids like prequels because these movies are technically for kids. It's like I don't know. But like to go back to the initial question, I think the Disney thing. I don't think we would have any of what we have now that Disney hadn't bought them. It's fulfilling the George Lucas like the volume. The volume is amazing. Like changing how they make TV or movies or what now. It's like, and Star Wars always been at the cusp of like the beginning of a new technology and new. So, yeah.
No, absolutely. I think they've hit more home runs on streaming than they have with their $1 billion movies. No, I think though they're and I think they're learning Star Wars as they go. George Lucas created it as he went. They don't have that luxury. They're learning it. They're learning the process as they go. And they're learning that Star Wars fans, as great as, we've come across some of the best ones. We don't really hang out with any dicks. But Star Wars fans online are some of the biggest a-holes you'll ever meet, especially here on YouTube. Like, that's just how it is, because for some reason algorithms rely on negativity, and that's just how it was with the prequels. We can't forget people hated the prequels. We've talked about this forever. So I don't think if they would have what was that?
They hated the prequels almost as much as Anakin hates Sand. So it's just like, it's like you can't like praise George Lucas and he's the guy who got the line. It's just like.
That being said, Brock, I don't know about you, but I would love to, I don't want to see it. I don't even need to like read a book on it. I just want to know what his like, and I don't think it was like whatever was. I want to see that Michael Arndt original script. You know what I mean? Like I kind of want to like see like what was the original plan. You know, not like to compare it, just to see what was in George Lucas's head more than anything. That's why, because I'm like you know, we can all pretend like it would have been better or worse or whatever, but I'm not even going to go down that road. But I just think like whatever they do going forward, have an end game, like have an idea of where it's going. Like we heard Mandalorian was planned for like 4 seasons apparently, right? Like if Andor's 2 seasons. When you know where something's going, your confidence level watching it makes more sense. And you know, you can argue, well, the original trilogy, they just made one at a time. Yeah, but that's a different era. Like they were creating it as it went. And then the prequels were going to be 3. Like we're in like filmmaking has changed so much now, Brock. We're not getting remakes of the Brady Bunch anymore. We're getting a sequel to the Brady Bunch, where the Brady Bunch is all, well, you know what? I'm using an example, but instead of recasting them all, we're getting the original cast in, and they're older and they're wiser and they're learning, and that's how things are. And I think people, you know, we've grown past the '90s remake era. Now we're into the sequel era and the continuation era. And we want to see where it's going, but we want to know that the people making it have a purpose for making it, and they, you know, where is it going and why is it going in that direction? And I think the future of Star Wars relies on those two theatrically, those two facts.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, we need to start seeing movies. So it's like, as much as I adore Andor. Adore. Andor.
We're going to get to Andor in a little bit.
But like they could continue making that and I'd be content. But it's just like, yeah, movies. Like the Marvel stuff is on Disney Plus is great. Like, let's see the movie. We're excited for, you know, the next thing is Wakanda Forever, right? Like, and right now Black Adam, just DC, but like, that's the current superhero film now. It's like Wakanda Forever. So it's like, ooh, all this stuff has happened in between Thor and now Wakanda Forever. So it's like, is any of this stuff going to play in? Like, it's like, I feel like, you know, they're like, they are good, but they need the films to exist. So it's like, now the question is like, you're strong in the Star Wars TV era section. Where are we going? Like, because as much as I love Andor, as much as Mandalorian, like, this is just filler. Like, Tales of the Jedi, continue to make that stuff. It's great. It's like, it gives you that extra detail. It is a walking, like, I said this before, visual dictionary, but like, where's Star Wars going? It doesn't have to be like the next. Like, perhaps you go back into the past and do something, but like, are we going to keep going? Or is like, if you're not going to do it, just say, the saga is done. There's nothing to be told. And then I think people would be okay with that. I think people will be like, oh, no more Star Wars movies. Like, continue to make extra stuff. But like, if you announce, like, look, we don't want to know what the galaxy is like after Skywalker, I think people would come to grips with that. There would be like 5 stages of evidence, but like, I don't think that's a terrible thing. So it's like, but like I said, like, I think they need to make a move on movies.
But
simply not.
Yeah, I agree with you, because they need to be in the theater. And you're absolutely right. I think Andor is brilliant, and I love Book of Boba Fett, and I will die on that hill. And Mandalorian, I think, is the greatest thing. You know, Grogu's the greatest thing since the dawn of time. But you're right. All those stories are fillers. They're all filler stories. And I don't think with Star Wars, though, more so than any other IP. I don't think that's a bad thing. That's not a negative thing. But at some point, you got to be like, what's the story? And if you're right, if it is, everything is over after the Skywalker saga, if they're like, you know what, the galaxy is good for a while, then fine, let's live in these filler stories for a little while. But the movies have to have, they need to be bigger in scope. They need to be a little bit more epic, and we have to feel like there's a purpose for them, because Andor feels big. Like Andor is small, but it feels bigger than I expected it to feel, because they called it Andor, and we're seeing things through Cassian Andor's eyes, but it's about the Empire and it's about the rebellion. Yeah. And there's so much going on, and they're using him to kind of to showcase all of that, and it's brilliant. And so they have to figure out, Brock, what the next big antagonistic, I don't know the word, but they need to figure out what it is, because it can't be Palpatine again. And they should have figured this out with the sequels. This was the thing. If this is what I meant earlier by figuring out your endgame. They need to figure out what the big problem in the galaxy is now. And then they got to work on that. Because it's pointless to just, keep going around in circles and just be like, what's cool? The Millennium Falcon. What's cool? Stormtroopers. And I agree with both of those points. But give it a purpose, give it a reason. Ask yourself why. Yeah. What's the threat? And I think once they figure out that threat, then it can be like, if it's this Lindelof thing that's happening, whatever his name is, if that's the next movie, then him and his writers, they need to figure out what the point of it is. And then they can flesh out, okay, this is going to take 3 movies, it's going to take 6 movies, it's going to take 9 movies. And then just give the Peter Jackson thing, be like, okay, go make these movies. Make the first one good. And the rest are all going to make $1 billion and follow suit if the first one's good. And that's what they need to do. They need to let them figure it out. But I think though, Brock, they need to stick with trilogies. Star Wars is a trilogy-based saga.
Yeah, sure.
Just stick with trilogies. Don't give me, because now Rogue One, and I think universally Rogue One is pretty much universally loved. That is now a Disney Plus show. That kind of story is now a Disney Plus show. There's no spin-off movies, no Solo, no Rogue One, none of that stuff in the theaters. You make the theaters the big event films. You throw the Rogue Ones and Solos on Disney. And I know you love Rogue One. I'm talking to the people out there, the Heidi, basically. I'm talking. I know everyone loves Rogue One, but that content, I hate using that word. That film now is a Disney Plus show, and that is because of the Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, and Andor has made it that way. The movie stuff, you've got to entice us to go to the movie. We need a big bad threat in the theater. It's got to be something worth our while, and I really think it's got to be a trilogy.
It's really not hard. Like I was gonna say a meme was like, it's like no Jedi, no lightsaber, no Force, 100% Star Wars from Andor, and it's like come up with villains that in movie Star Wars. It's not hard. It's like the Dark Horse Star Wars is a Yuzong Fong. That was a huge. I didn't really read it, but like enough people knew about it. Like they killed Chewbacca at one point. Like it's like there's capable Grand Admiral Thrawn. Like put him in live action. Maybe I'm hoping in Ahsoka, right? But like think about it. It's like you can create the same character and people will accept it. Like you got from Shadows of the Empire, like you don't have a Millennium Falcon, but you have the Outrider, or you have the Ghost from Rebels. They're all like, it's not which ship it is. It's that it's the clubhouse. It's like this is where the heroes hang out, so we love it. It doesn't matter if it's the Falcon with Han Solo or it's like the Ghost with Hera. It works, and it's like. Cassie is different from Luke. I mean, I guess you could be like, oh, they're a little different this way, but like just trying to survive, right? So it's so easy to recreate these characters. Like, how many times do you look at Luthen's assistant? It's like that looks like Carrie Fisher, young Carrie Fisher. Her name is Clea. Like, it's like, are you Leia in hiding in plain sight? It's so easy to recreate these characters because they're universal in actual universe. Like It's so simple. So it's like, I guess, like you said, is like have a plan, which is like, will that plan be satisfactory to fans?
Probably
That's-
not. I think
That's
that,
a $1 million question.
but I think just
like,
have the plan.
yeah, like
have
I
the
mean,
plan.
look at our friend Argyle here in the chat. He says straight up, like, Andor is okay, it's low, and that's a valid point. Like, I watched episode 4, the second episode of like when the shepherds. Oh, I'm starting to remember all the names. Anyways,
I
that
don't remember
one.
anyone's name.
I
on this
thought
show.
Heist episode was, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna get great, and it's great, and she's like, when is this episode over? I'm like, she liked it, but she's like, this is long, and it's a valid point. Like, we get into it because, oh, and like, yeah, it's gonna work with this and that and this and that, but doesn't work every time. So I don't know.
Well, Andor is it's such a different beast from everything else. You know, it's like it doesn't feel like Mandalorian, which is now what's even Boba Fett that a lot of people didn't like. It felt like Mandalorian. I mean, one of the episodes was the Mandalorian. Like it feels Mandalorian, right? Whereas this one doesn't feel like anything. It feels like its own thing, and that's because it's part of Rogue One. It's not part of Mandalorian. It's part of Rogue One. But Mandalorian is action packed for the most part, and when it's not, it still kind of feels like there's going to be like you're getting that promise, and then when they need it, they throw in Grogu and they distract you with Grogu. Andor is, people are saying it's for adults. I would say it's a mature story. Kids definitely, and you know what I compared it to with Fantasia the other day is the Dark Knight, like the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. Kids aren't lining up to watch the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, but they're great movies, and we appreciate those movies. But a 10-year-old, huh?
That's so funny that you mentioned Batman. At Walmart, this is like just a big display of the Batman clothes, and I'm like, what parent is allowing kids to go see the Batman, arguably way darker than the Nolan series? I'm like, I get it. Yeah. Batman's a toy. But it's like, it's weird.
Actually, this movie, the Andor feels more like the Batman than the. It might. I mean, yeah, you're right though. It's like exactly like, but they're selling those toys. They're not selling any Andor toys. So, yeah, that's the thing. It's like we love like the Batman and the Dark Knight. Like they're great movies, but they're definitely more. And it's a way where it's like you have to pay attention. Like I love the Batman, but it's not a movie that you can just put on and have a few drinks and joke around while you watch it. Like that movie to me is a theatrical film. It's when you've got to sit in your seat and that's the only thing you pay attention to for 3 freaking hours. Because otherwise it's like you have to pay attention to that movie. But that's another discussion altogether. I think Andor is very similar though, where you kind of have to pay attention to Andor. It's not, Mandalorian. I love Mandalorian. I wore the costume last week, but like you can turn on, you can walk around, you can have a drink, you can have a joke. You're not really going to miss much. Andor, you're going to miss a lot, and it's a slow burn, which is also not for everybody. But you know me, I like my slow, because Boba Fett was a slow burn too, Brock, but it was like a more family friendly slow burn, if that makes sense. Like it felt more like, because of the aliens and Boba Fett and all that stuff, it felt a little bit more like a playful slow burn, whereas Andor is more like, here's the concentration camp.
Yeah, it's. I would love to have like a 12-year-old and year-old watch Andor, like just like let them watch, like how quickly do they get bored, or does it get attention? Because it's like it's not a bang bang like excitement every minute, but it builds, and then you get to like, I feel like every third episode is like a huge action scene, and that seems to be working because like I'm going to now rewatch the heist episode, so it's like, yeah, that's the 6th episode, and the 3rd episode was like the escape from Ferrex, you know. So like,
This show has a plan. Is
Yeah,
what like
it does.
we were saying, like talking the other day, where it's like everything they do feels calculated. Like there seems to be a purpose for everything. Nothing happens by chance, right? It's like they know where they're going with it.
Yeah. It's interesting, you know. And like, you like to mention Book of Boba Fett a lot, and like, there are parts of that I'm like, there's like choices made, and it's like, it's one of those things where you're like, this is gonna pay off, like, I think this is gonna pay off huge. Like by itself, like, it's fine. This is fine. You wanted to tell a story, you told it, and like, it wasn't terrible. There's confusing parts, like a whole episode devoted to not the main character, but like, I don't think anyone's complaining.
No, but you know what's funny about that is because that gets mentioned a lot, right? Like, whose show is this? But if you watch the making of on Disney Plus, that the behind the scenes show that they do,
I haven't watched that.
Favreau mentions that episode flat out. He's just like, well, this is part of the same story, and we love this character, so we did it. And it's like, and I think Andor and Acolyte, and we're gonna do Thanksgiving, Brock. We're gonna do a roundtable with Pete Fletcher from the Galaxy, where we're going to talk about it, because I want to talk to you guys about Acolyte, and is Acolyte going to but is it going to be influenced by Andor in the way that it's kind of going to be its own thing, right? It's going to be allowed to be its own thing. Yeah. But the thing with Boba Fett is Boba Fett was in the Mando verse, where you have Mando, Boba Fett, Ahsoka now. Clone Wars, I think, is going to inevitably be a part of that. Obi-Wan maybe kind of like was on the outskirts of the Mandoverse, but I think in the end it all makes sense, because all of these stories are going to be one giant continuous story, like a tree, and they're all branches of the tree, whereas Andor's is a bush below the tree. And I don't mean that like it's worse than like it's no low-hanging fruit. I mean it's like it's a you know what I mean? It's part of the same valley, but it's a different plant.
I just cutting and pasting for the Hollow News today. I came along like an opinion piece, and it was talking about how like Andor goes to total streaming juggernauts of, you know, Ring of Power, Rings of Power, and House of the Dragon, where it's like it's what brings blend, and it's amazing too. It's episodic. It's so hilarious that like we're back to episodic. But I'm like, that's a really good point. I don't think I compared the two, because like Andor and then Ring of Power and what do you call it? House of the Dragon are so similar in like genre that they came out at the exact same time, so they were competing. But you're like, yeah, like just because those series are done doesn't mean everyone's watching it at as it releases. It's like the top like 2 to 3, and they're all different. One's HBO, one's Prime, and one is Disney Plus. So it's like they're on competing streaming platforms, you know, like something. But it's like I'm like, yeah, that's really interesting. So I think there's something to be said about that. But there's notice of this show, so.
I have to tell you, this episode 9 of Andor for me was the first one, and this isn't a negative, because I've realized, Brock, that there's now different forms of entertainment viewing. There's movies, there's weekly series, and there's binge watching series. Yeah. And this was the first week that Andor didn't feel like a binge watching series. And I've been saying, like, and I think the first, like you said it though, it's like every 3 episodes is like is an arc, and they're doing that next year, right? Where this 3 years is going to be a year, but this last episode really felt like it was an isolated episode. I mean, it was obviously tied in beautifully and everything, but it felt to me like it was the first one where I was like, oh, that felt like an episode where I'm dying to see the next one, but I didn't think it stopped short. Like I was like, oh, I need it now. I was like, oh, I can't wait to see next week. That's kind of like the feeling that I got. Yeah. Yeah, Dale, we're live right now. Yeah. It's James. So that's where I was on it. But I do think it's an absolutely I think it's a fun. I just think it's a great show. But I think though these streaming services need to, because I think Rings of Power was a binge show, 100%. And I actually really like Rings of Power. I thought it was great, but it's a binge show. And Mandalorian is not a binge show. Book of Boba Fett is a binge show. And I think the streaming services and all that need to start figuring out what is and what isn't. Like, what's the best? If you feel the need to drop 3 episodes of Andor on the same day, and then like you're saying, each 3 episodes kind of feels like they should belong together, maybe that's the way you should be doing next season, right? It's 3 episodes at a time. It's less. I mean, they want us to keep subscribing, but I think the most people that are watching Andor are in Disney Plus for the long haul. I don't think we're going anywhere anytime soon. So I understand that, but I think there's 2 different ways to look at it, and I think Andor, for the most part, is a binging show. But this last week, for me anyway, I thought it was like, oh, this felt more episodic.
Yeah. It was a fantastic episode. It's just like every time I watch it, I'm like, yeah. It's like that's true. I have something in the holiday. It's just like it's almost good to see Andy Serkis like act as himself, and I keep forgetting he's the voice of Snoke. Like it's like
he is Snoke. He's not just a voice.
Like he is, but like. How many other people have been multiple characters? Oh, I guess Davis has been multiple characters.
Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill.
And Mark Hamill. Yeah. I was like, is he the first? But no, it's like, I guess it's the beauty of a show where like you can wear makeup and become something else. But yeah.
But I would argue he's the first one to be 2 major characters. And like it was like he's billed as both, right? Warwick Davis is like cameos, Mark Hamill's like uncredited Bulio or whatever. So Kino Loy is a great character. I think he's so good. Like I still think Hollywood has really misused Andy Serkis for the last 30 years, because I'm like, every time he does something, like he's so good. He doesn't. Why are we sticking him in mocap all the time? And I know that's his bread and butter, but like he's so good. He was like the best in Black Panther. I know he got off really fast. He was so good in that though. Like I would watch a Claw show over the Agatha show they're giving us, which I'm sure is going to be fine. You know, there's a purpose for everything. But I'm like, he's so good in that. Like anyway, Stan Solo's here. He said, all right, dudes, we can start the show now. I heard Snoke. And Heidi's right. You do hear kind of Snoke when he's yelling at the prisoners. But I just think Andy Serkis has been great on it. I can't wait to see. I think he's going to die by the end of this season. I think he's going to die during the prison breakout or whatever they have planned. No more than 12.
Yeah, it's like it's amazing how this whole show they can find new ways of being beaten down by the Empire. Like, this guy's in prison, literally forcing men to build things that are making the Empire stronger, and like he's like, you just want to mess with the system. They've set rules. It's the Empire. They love rules. Like if you abide by the rules, you can one day leave here. And then it's like, no, there's no rules. The Empire doesn't care about you. They are just here to benefit themselves. And it's like like you see it. Like Bix's story is different. Andor's story is different. Val's story is different. Mon Mothma's story is different. And it's just like, it's interesting seeing all the. I mean, Saw Gerrera, like it's. I am so excited to see where this whole series goes, because it's like they're pointing out all these crazy things that the galaxy would go through during the time of the Empire. So it's like, and they're just suffering, and like the only thing that will pull them out is the main villain's son, who will try to blow up Space Nation. Like it's great. Like it's just like it's also great. Like it's like this. It's so multifaceted.
Can't wait to see where it goes. And I do want to say something. The highest point, I think, she said everybody will be dead but Mothma and Saw by the end of it. I do think Mon Mothma. You know, you're kind of speculating about Val's death. I think
Yeah.
honestly, like when you think of her performance in Return of the Jedi, she's very like stoic and almost like heartbroken the whole time. And she's not that yet. She's not there yet. So I think things are about to happen to the Mothma household. By the way, Perrin though, before we get to the odds, Brock, Perrin is a character I can't. Her husband, I can't figure out. I cannot. and part of the problem is I haven't got to watch the episode like super loud and like or more than once. All these episodes because of the baby and everything. So I haven't been able to like hear all the time. But like last week, I'm like, is he like on the good side? Like, what side is Perrin on? Like, is he a secret rebel and he's really trying and he doesn't trust his own wife? Like, I can't figure out where he is yet. Or is he on to his wife? I don't know where Perrin is at in this show yet. And I like that.
Yeah, it's just, it's so, I think some people are comparing Andor to like, or saying that Andor has a huge political like message going on that can actually apply today. So it's like Aaron, the daughter, like people that exist like in our world where there's a million terrible things happening in this world, and we continue to like. There's people that just ignore it. It's like, oh, is there a war in the Ukraine? Is that still going on? Or like, is there injustice in Iran? Oh, that's still going on. I didn't hear anything about it on the news. Like, it's like. There's people that are like, I'm okay, life is good, so I'm just going to exist. And if you're not going to come alive, I'm not to like give you the time of day. Like it's hard to like see what's like, because I've been watching these with my wife, so I'm seeing these stories again with like Mon's daughter and Perrin, her husband. It's just like, what exactly did Mon Mothma do to get treated like this? And I guess she ignored them, but like what happened? So I hope they flesh that out a little bit more, because it's like, I think you said right. It's like in the prison episode, it's like Andor is in a physical prison, and then Mon is in like a metaphorical prison of her own. It's just like, you're like, whoa.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you want to go to the odds?
Let's do it.
Hold on. Here we go.
An asteroid field is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
Never tell me the odds. Brought to you by Patreon/Rebel Scum Podcast. If you love like we do, and you know you do, go on down to patreon.com/Rebel and be a supporter. You can get some, you can get heads up when we're gonna go live like we. Just help us out, because as you can see, I've been frozen almost the entire freaking episode. But you know, we soldier on, and the people that help us out are amazing. And we like to shout them out every day. I did not pull up the list because I say it every episode. I can remember, but I always remember I the producer. Barry Brophy, Dennis Allen, Kenobi, Mary Kristen Aton, Jeff Wilson, forth, Rez, Scott G, Josh Price,
Matt W, Frank Perkins, Neil Lowry, Cosmic Girl 02, Gleek Play 1, Disney Desi, Charlotte, Kayla Davis, Dale Erdman, Dale's in the chat, Girls with Sabers, Nerds also says that Andor is bad for Star Wars. That for another day. Heidi commented on that.
What were we talking about?
Here we go. First on is from Patreon, Disney Desi. By the way, Patreon and everybody, submit your ranking Star Wars list. Brock, ranking Star Wars, are you ready? 2023 ranking Star Wars coming. So far, I've gotten one list, only one, and there's only one movie on that list. Anyway, here we go. I'm not gonna say what. I'm not gonna.
I ranked Marvel the other day with
Fantasia.
Bro, this is too long. This is too long.
Yeah. So yeah. Infinity Rewatch is doing the ranking Marvel, but they're doing like the movies and the series separately.
Yeah.
It's way too long. I was just like, look,
Yeah.
here it is. Werewolf by Night, like, is number 3 or 4 for me. It's like right up the bracket. And then I was like, what about the Guardians Christmas special? And I was like, that's number 1. It's number 1. It hasn't come out. I haven't watched it, but it's number 1. It's number 1.
He sent me that list, and then like 5 minutes later, he's like, "So you can know by the time this is up, Wakanda from you." And I'm like, "Well, what?" It's like, and also the Guardians of the Galaxy's Christmas. I'm like, bro, just like choose the list and don't keep adding, because Marvel will put out a movie every 10 seconds.
Every
like
day.
It's just like
I demanded the Guardians.
I can't
Christmas
wait
special.
Wakanda forever.
Heidi's number 1 is the holiday special. What are the odds of Krennic showing up? Wait, let's just go to Stan Solo quickly before we get to the real odds of the day. What are the odds Krennic shows up in Andor? Never tell me the odds about Krennic showing up in Andor.
I feel like they won't. Maybe season 2. But
Yeah,
I would love it. Don't get me wrong. So I'm gonna say like 85%. I'm like, ooh.
Because Krennic, I feel like, is above. Like, we haven't seen his level in this series yet.
Yeah.
They're not like, because he's just below Tarkin, and we haven't gotten that high up yet.
Yeah,
I can see season 2.
Yeah.
And I get, and you know, it'd be great if they just like, the one thing that's great about this show is we don't hear any spoilers from any of those BS sites, and we don't and they already said, like, Gilroy's like, yeah, we're going to Yavin next season. It's like they don't even care. They're just like, yeah, we're doing this, whatever. It is what it is. Why bother hiding it? So I could totally see him coming, because it's going to end 5 days before Rogue One. So, you know, it's right there. The only thing was, so yeah, we could get Krennic. Though, Brock, I'm going to go 27% on that. I'm going to go low, because I don't think Krennic, from what we know so far, I don't think that Rogue One storyline of Krennic, I don't think fits into anything we're going to get from Andor.
I feel like as season 2, you're like, your next target, and it's a picture of Horse and Krennic.
Okay, that's possible. Did you give a percentage?
Boom. Oh, 85%.
All right. Thanks, Phil. So, and also submit your ranking list, Patreon, because we need to know.
Yeah.
We need to know. Guardians special number 1, Werewolf by Night number 2, Hawkeye number 3. Everything else is tied. That's my Marvel show list. But this is Star Wars 1, 2. I'm telling you, Brock, every year we do the ranking list, and I'm always like, I mean, Empire Jedi I usually fight out for number 1, but Revenge of the Sith lately has been coming on strong, and Rogue One's always really high, so I can't wait for the list. And our second odd today from Disney, Desi, what are the odds Reva shows up in Andor? Will Reva McEntire, the Inquisitor, show up in Andor?
Interesting. I mean, I think as far as like, there's way we could connect those two shows, but it's like, this would be like, Obi-Wan would have been what, 5 years prior to where we're at right now?
Yeah, but I think she's thinking like maybe she comes back as a rebel soldier, like just someone.
Yeah. I'm gonna go 55%. I love it though. Like, definitely do it. But like, I don't know.
Reva McEntire,
like Tony Gilroy's like, yeah.
But then he throws in Saw Gerrera,
like,
the Senate. Like, you can't stay away from what exists in the universe already, right?
True, but like Tony Gilroy, no fan service, and like unless you have a really good story for putting Reva in that, it's like Saw Gerrera.
I don't know. There's a lot of fans. Star Wars is fan service. That's the problem.
It is, yeah.
But I'm going to go 7%, and I'm all for it happening, but 7% because of that comment. But also, this series is so highly connected to Rogue One more than anything. And I feel like if it doesn't exist in Rogue One, it's not going to exist in this show. Rogue One, New Hope. Like, I think those are those are what it's building off of, right? Is that time period of Rogue One to New Hope. Like, anything that happens within that is fair game. Yeah. And I don't think so. I don't think Reva is going to happen because I don't think she has a place in this based on that idea that I have. Heidi says she's for her in anything but Andor. I don't want any Jedi in Andor. Darth Maul showing up. Darth Maul showing up. And our final ad today, Brock, I'm going to skip one. I'll use it next time, whatever. I'm going to skip one. Bryce Dallas Howard will direct a Star Wars animated movie. Filoni has said he wants her to. Do you think Bryce Dallas Howard will direct a Star Wars animated movie? And do you think we're going to get a Star Wars animated movie? Let's do a twofer there.
This is something we didn't talk about because have you watched Tales of the Jedi yet?
I have not.
Have you seen a post that Bryce Dallas Howard voices a character in?
Yeah, I know she's Yaddle. I know she's Yaddle, and I've seen the clip. I've seen they released the clip of her doing Yaddle as well. So I have seen that, but I haven't had a chance to watch the series yet.
So like, it's clear Bryce Dallas Howard is like definitely on the VIP list in the Star Wars. I think they're gonna definitely use her more. I don't know if she wants for animated movies or she just likes doing episodic stuff, but like the first one for animated movies, that what you said? What was the first question again?
Will she direct an animated movie? Because Filoni has said he wants her to.
I'm gonna go 80% on that one. And what was the second one?
Are we gonna get a Star Wars animated movie?
40%. I don't know. Like, it's like, what defines that now? Like, because I feel like any animated movie, they were just like, oh, well, yeah, let's make 1 million of them and just stick them on Disney Plus. And then, are they movies? You know, like, it's sort of like how the Clone Wars movie is a movie that was released, but we kind of consider it more of a TV show than anything else.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 70%. Bob Iger said there would be no Star Wars movies on Disney Plus, but now he's not in charge anymore.
Yeah.
I think that might change, and I think they're gonna look at it. And I don't know if a Star Wars animated film, and I know Lauren from Galactic Podcast would argue, but I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're looking for an animated film right now. I don't think they want an animated film right now. But an animated film on Disney Plus, I think, is very plausible. So I'm going to 100% go with that, and I'm going to go. What did I say? I'm going to go 73% on Bryce Dallas Howard directing it, because why not make it happen? Come on, KK. Oh, she's been fired.
You know, like, I don't know if Star Wars animated could be successful in the theater, but also live in a time now where like the anime movies.
Yeah,
I mean, those are kind of at the time. Like, there is like, any like Dragon Ball movie. I think Demon Hunter.
But I don't know if that's the same. I don't know if that's the same audience as Star Wars. Is the problem?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, it may, but that's definitely why they went after Star Wars Visions. Like, they're like, what if we could figure that out?
Which is great, and I don't think everything has to necessarily be a movie, but I think do a movie on Disney Plus, do an animated movie on Disney Plus, and if it's super successful on Disney Plus, if they obviously have that data, then you look at the future. All right, you got the news?
Relax, Vermont Mike.
You got the news?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Brock, you're up. Frozen Brock. Frozen Brock. I'm sorry. I'm gonna mute my mic because
Holidays, news you need to know right now. No, you had your chance. No, it's my time to be frozen and talking. Today in Holo News, a lot of Andor. In a conversation with Collider, showrunner Tony Gilroy revealed that the continuation of Andor's Star Wars has had 3 directors to focus on the events that precede Rogue One. The second season will be broken up into episode arcs. He confirmed, adding that it will be split among Giving Ariel, Climbing from Yellow Jackets, all of the old lines, and Lorenzo Ruz Palacios, Outer Range. The trailer on episode blocks, the Lucasfilm project that's on season 1 did. Climbing will be assuming a role similar to Toby Haynes, taking a 6-episode arc split into 2 blocks of 3. Haynes directed season 1's first 3 episodes, while additional blocks of 3 were helmed by the filmmaker, along with Suzanne White and Ben Carson. And we were talking about Andor's audience demand now on par with The Mandalorian, according to data gathered as part of a new study. Acting as a prequel to 2016's Rogue One, a Star Wars story, Andor is the latest live action Star Wars released on his Plus, and chronicling the character Andor has earned rave reviews from critics thus far, with particular praise levied as creative, more mature approach to Star Wars, the universe, and the show's nuanced characters. That's pretty much it, but yeah, people are loving it. The study shows that data from October 15th to 21st reveals that Andor's audience demand is 34.1 times demand for the average TV show, with The Mandalorian following closely behind at 34 times. So there you go. This is interesting, and Lord knows it'll get better and better as more hype for Andor gets passed around to people. And this has been your Hollow News.
Hollow News, da 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 da. Hollow News, da 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 da. Hollow. Okay, we're gonna go to top 5 now, bro. I just screwed up. I did not write my top 5. It's top 5 moments from the Disney era, bro. Top 5 moments from the Disney. Because look, it's getting dark in here. Give me a second.
Boom.
Top 5 moments from the Disney era, because it's been 10 years and we have had some amazing. Stan Solo says the Deidre Cyril to be the new Han and Leia Hallmark Christmas special. I'm totally in on that. I watched my first Christmas special last night, Brock. It was not Hallmark, because the whole time I was watching it, I was like, this feels like it was shot on a handy cam, and at the end it was not Hallmark. And so kudos to Hallmark and their high production values. Top 5 moments from the Disney era. It's been a wild 10 years filled with a lot of fun, a lot of cool stuff, and some not so cool stuff. But my number 5, Brock, I'm going to go Star Wars Visions. Way to change the game on Star Wars a little bit. I haven't even watched them. No, I've seen some of it. But Star Wars Visions, Brock, that's going to be my number 5.
Number 5 is going to be Andor, because it's not done yet, so we don't know if it can truly unseat Mandalorian for the top of Star Wars content. So yeah, I mean, I'm loving it so far.
Man, I honestly, you know what? Because I think about that a lot. I'm like, I'm gonna wait till the end but I'm like, does it even need to be better than Mandalorian? Can it just? It feels like it can just exist side by side with Mandalorian. But my number 4 is gonna be Rogue One. Rogue One was a film we saw in the theater on opening night, and I remember I thought the beginning was choppy, and I was a little bit underwhelmed by it, but the ending was so good. Then we saw it again a few weeks later. We took my dad to see it for his birthday, and I just remember that I think maybe it was the expectations, because if you remember, Brock, we had just started the podcast before Rogue One, that summer. We did a video about us getting ready for Rogue One, so I think my buildup in my mind kind of took away from my experience the first time. The second time, I remember leaving the theater, and Aaron and I parked in our old parking garage under our apartment. We're like, we need to watch A New Hope right now. And there was this excitement about it. And it was just this idea. And I think, and Andor is not going to be on my list, but for no other reason than Rogue One is, because it gave us Andor. And what you're saying about Andor is kind of like what Rogue One was. And it's like, it's just this promise of fleshing it out the way Clone Wars was, but live action in a big dramatic way. And I just really appreciate that. And I love Solo, but Rogue One was like the Force Awakens was Force Awakens, and that's going to be on my list too. Don't worry. But Rogue One was just something special, and it was this promise of what could be.
This list is just like my reactions are almost all Disney Plus.
That's fine.
So I force myself. That's fine, but like when I force myself, because it's like it's not just that. And I agree with you on Rogue One. I could say that, but I'll shake it up so we don't have exactly the same thing. I'm going to say number 4 is the return to the theater. Like,
yeah,
regardless of how you felt about each film, it was something. We had to go to the theater the day it came out. We went to the movie multiple times. Like Like we saw Force Awakens like 7 times or whatever, 6 times, and like except for like maybe the last 2, I think I only went once, but like it became an event, like, especially releasing at Christmas. Like I would go see it with you, and then I would go see it again, and then I'd go see it like with my parents on Boxing Day. It's like,
we watched it New
like,
Year's Eve during the day.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Like it's like you win or lose, like getting hype for it, and it's in an era now where we don't have to stand in line anymore. We just have to make sure we get tickets. Like you can't really replace that. So
no, absolutely not. I'm not going to comment on that because that will be coming later on. No, I forget my number 3. I had a really good number 3. It was so good. The best number 3 you could have. Tremendous number 3. My number 3 is Galaxy's Edge. I haven't been there. You've been there. My sister's been there. Disney Desi is. I think she has an Ewok village there. That's where she lives now. We wouldn't have got that if they didn't do it. And I think we went to Harry Potter when you and I went to Star Wars Celebration with Aaron. We went to the Harry Potter stuff, and that blew my mind. So I can only imagine what Star Wars is. I like Star Wars more than Harry. I love Harry Potter, but I like Star Wars more than Harry Potter. So it's just the idea that exists is, and it's because Disney owns it. That's my number 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say something else. You're right. Like, there you go. That's an outside of Disney Plus thing. Like Galaxy's Edge is by far like I watch Andor and I'd be like, this looks like Galaxy's Edge. It's like that's how real it looks. Which you're like, yeah, of course it would look like these are all movie sets they make. Like, of course they're just like, here's how we built this, and they're like, okay, we'll do this over here in Norman and Anaheim. Like, no, yeah, it's out of this world. It's just a true testament of like the fan culture that is Star Wars. Like it makes money hand over fist. You just slap Star Wars on it, and people will be like, "Ooh, what's this? What's this?" So yeah, outstanding.
Dale Erdman's been there, and Heidi was there with Disney Desi. Actually, they were there together.
Yeah, that's right.
Earlier this year. So yeah, I hopefully one day. I mean, I'm going to get to go. I have a daughter now. I have an excuse to get to Disney, but not that I needed it before. But I've been looking forward to it. I do have an apron from the Droid Factory that my sister got me because I love making my pizzas. So I'm ready for Galaxy's Edge. Your number 3, Brock?
That was my number 3.
Oh, okay. My number 2 is going to the theater to watch all the movies, but specifically, even though it's my least favorite sequel trilogy, The Force Awakens was a very special movie-going experience. It was like the first movie we had in a decade for Star Wars other than the Clone Wars. It was, it was this excitement of a new trilogy coming up, the new era of like Disney Star Wars, what's to come. What didn't make my list was that initial Force Friday, which was one of the most exciting events ever. That another thing that didn't make my list was, and it almost did, was the Elite figures that I went to every week to get from the Disney store. It was just like there was a lot of fun though around it. It was mostly because of this movie, The Force Awakens, which we didn't really know what was going to be, but we knew it was J.J. Abrams. It was a return to the original trilogy form. What was it going to be? The movie for me, it's probably in the bottom of the barrel of the sequel trilogy, but it was the first time I saw it, I pretty much had a smile on my face the entire way through. When I start to think about it, I get annoyed at things. But that experience, Brock, I compare it to a donut all the time. I love my donuts. My stomach knows I love my donuts. I love my donuts. Force Awakens in the theater there was like a row of us, right? There was half a row with us. We had a great time. It was just that experience. I don't know, because of the way movies are now, Brock, I don't think we'll ever get that again. And so that is going to be my number 2.
My number 2 is a little bit more technical based, but it's going to be the volume, which obviously we wouldn't really understand if we didn't have that, whatever that documentary series was called. Crazy. Like they accomplished The Mandalorian and then Obi-Wan. It's wild. I mean, I think it's even beneficial that like we're not seeing it Andor, so we can sort of see like, oh wow, this is so super cool. Yeah, Captain Rex Funko Pop for the win. But like it's crazy. It's like I said before, it's like Star Wars has always been a interesting franchise story, but also like technical. It always focuses on how do we get to that new technology to make this better.
Absolutely.
So it's like it's insane, and it's a marvel. So it's like wow.
And they used it beautifully in like the Batman. I can't speak of it, but the Batman it looks so good in that movie. And they're still learning with it, and they're growing. And you're right. And that was James Cameron's biggest knock on The Force Awakens, right? Was the technological advancements weren't there, and they did that here. And my number one, Mandalorian.
Wait.
What?
Okay. We probably have the same thing, but you already said it.
Is it the Mogwai?
The Mogwai.
Yeah, it's a Grogu. It's Baby Yoda. It's Mandalorian. Mandalorian. And I've seen people complain, like, it's a cash grab. It's like, screw you. That's what Star Wars is. Boba Fett was an action figure. No one cared. It did work. Every time Baby Yoda's on the screen, I'm like, gosh darn it, I'm in. And honestly, because I know you've complained about the Baby Yoda noises in the past, and I've kind of been indifferent to them. I have a baby now, and I will tell you, Brock, that is the sounds they make, like nonstop. And we're like, she was on before we recorded. You saw. It's I'm like, I live with Baby Yoda now. And I'm like, I get the voice. So yeah, that's number one. That was the most genius thing they did was creating this stupid little baby version of Yoda, stole over, and the best part, Brock, was they hid it from us. No one knew it was coming until the end of that episode.
Yeah, like the best kept secret ever. Like, it's crazy. I mean, yeah, you could say a million about the but like, let's just boil it down. It's Grogu. And it's like, if you hate it because you're like, I don't like cutesy things, okay, fine, that's a valid point. But like, the whole story is around this little creature. Like, who cares about Bo-Katan? Who cares about Din Djarin? Who cares about Moff Gideon? It's this freaking alien, man. Who cares that Luke Skywalker returning in any form wasn't even mentioned on either of our lists because like Grogu is the star.
And by the way, people complaining about Luke Skywalker turning, like, he looks fake and sounds like, yeah, it's not real. Who cares? Who cares? We're getting it. Like, just appreciate what we get and stop it. Grogu, man. Yeah. But by the way, Sheldon Norton, my friend Sheldon, he sent a bunch of baby gifts our way, and he texted me, goes, do you have a Grogu plushie? I said no, and of course it's too far for me to grab right now. But he sent a plushie Grogu, and it is awesome. I think Aaron sent you the picture of Selena with the Grogu. Yeah, I wasn't home for that. She sent that to me too. It's like the same size as her, but it's amazing. And Grogu, like, and also Brock, I had to say, Star Wars. I said the Boba Fett thing, but that's Star Wars, right? Star Wars is about these little characters that have no like. It's not about like. I think people lose sight on what Star Wars actually is about. Like Heidi's favorite Star Wars, and we're going to do an Outlander Club. So Heidi got into Star Wars because of the holiday special. She got into Star Wars because of the holiday special. It's not the deep meanings and stuff in Star Wars are fine, but at the end of the day, it's the surface level Grogu's and Lumpies that get us into it. And Disney Desi's here. She says, "Hey, she purposely planned to show up on time, to show up at the very end of the show." She's like, "I don't want to hear what they have to say." So anyway, it's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
Well, that's the show. I feel bad ending it now that we. Anything else you want to say, Brock?
Watch Andor is great. And if you want more sci-fi, watch the what's it called? The Peripheral on Amazon Prime. I am watching that, and literally, it's like if Player One met. That's a pretty good review.
All right, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I am. I'm ready. We should do this again this week. But yeah, so Thanksgiving for everybody watching. American Thanksgiving. We're going to be doing a morning show. We have our roundtable with Pete Fletcher and we're going to do our podcast episode that night for everybody, Brock. And then, of course, January 1st, 2023, ranking Star Wars Returns. So for all of you watching, email us rebelscumbags@gmail.com and give us your list if you want your favorite Star Wars movie to be up in the list. Because this is what happens, Brock, is people are like, I didn't put it on my list, and then they complain that The Last Jedi was either way too high or way too low. So you got to figure it out, everybody. Where do you want that movie? Send us the email. Let us know. Disney Duzzy, I know where you stand. You already did vote, and I have that list. And The Last Jedi is first and last on the list currently.
So send us your list. Send us like in any way you want. Send it voice notes or send videos. Just whatever. Just say why you like this and why you like. Give us your list and then say this is why I like this movie. Whatever, and just like let us know because it's weird just being like number 10 is Return of the Jedi. What? Solo.
I can guarantee you. I have a feeling
it is
Brock,
Solo.
I'm gonna make a bold prediction. Solo will be last this year. So if you don't want Solo last, you better put it higher on your list. There you go. All right. I can hear my baby crying, Brock. I am going to leave now and get going on to my fatherly duties. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, James.
I'm so glad you were frozen. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching, for listening, for being in the live chat, for being part of this episode 262 of the Rebel Scum podcast. He's Brock. I'm James, and he was always Scum.
Rebel Scum.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.